This is a look at animation in Premiere Elements. If I start from the beginning and open a new file, then here you decide what size you want to work at. The current one is 1280 by 720. You can change it to what you like. You can have full HD if you want. Then I'll change it to list view and bring some content into the program. These are a stream of PNG files that have been created in Ultrafractal Extended Edition. It has a video timeline and works kind of like Photoshop. So you've got these layers to the right hand side, all doing different things with transparency through them. I like the PNG files as they work better in Premiere for some reason. I add them to a timeline and then render them by hitting the return key. Once it's rendered, it can run through. Sometimes it's a little slow, depends on your computer, I guess. So in order to create an animation that's a minute or 2-3 minutes long, it will involve a lot of frames, a lot of images being brought in, and it'll either run very slowly or it will crash. So one way around this is to work in sections and export the sections as high quality AVI files. It doesn't necessarily do that particularly easily for you. So you go to computer, and you will have to change the AVI setting in the Advanced tab once you've picked Microsoft AVI. You go to Advanced, and you'll have to change quite a few settings here. So you pick Microsoft Video 1. You want to increase the quality perhaps to 100%. And then you will change the frame size. So if you want to put in 1280 or 1920 by 1080, then you put that in there. And usually it's suggested to use square pixels for computer work or just purely digital work. I'd recommend saving the settings as it's quite tedious doing that every time. So that will now render as an AVI. Once it's rendered, you can bring the footage back into Premiere. It will play a little bit easier than running image files, and you can apply effects or use the time stretch tool to slow it down, speed it up, or reverse it. It's quite handy because it means you don't need to produce so much content, and that's a big issue with making the animation is the time it will take to create thousands of frames. If I flip back to the setup at the beginning, what you have is a slightly more complex animation, which is layered. The top layer is the character, and she is a stream of PNG files generated from Poser Pro. When you look at her like this, it's fairly plain, you don't see much until it's rendered. So the rendered character, or the processed files, are effectively chroma keyed for you. You don't need any blue screen, you don't need any green screen, you just export them like that. So they come out with this opacity. There are other 3D programs. If you want a free one, then just use DAZ 3D. It can do an awful lot. It can do anything I'm doing here without having to pay any money. And I guess if you want to buy some extras, you do that. Poser Pro is a bit more expensive. I think about $250, something in that region. My intro is generated in something called Bryce. It's part of the DAZ 3D company and used mainly for generating backgrounds, but it will also create all sorts of abstracts. However, again, when you use the timeline, it gives a wireframe view, and you have to click render to see what image you're going to get. It's worth mentioning that these programs can be very slow at generating a full HD image. So it's worth looking at the parameters of what you can change to make rendering quicker. Even this short animation of only just 6 seconds will have taken days to create the image files. Once rendered, with a little bit of music attached to it, it plays like so.